Joining me on the podcast today is Fatima. Her story is one of the most powerful I've come across as to why she became a runner. Fleeing Afghanistan from the regime to live a life of freedom is a reminder of what a gift each day is. Coming from a life so restricted, she finds herself invested in a sport that empowers her and offers freedom. Running isn't about winning for her. Every step she takes is a step of hope for her friends and family who remain in her native land. Fatima is a beacon of hope and is a pillar of strength for so many. When you think of resilience, you think of Fatima.
Guys, I'm incredibly proud to say that my first book, Fortune Favours the Brave, published by Penguin, is now in stores to purchase, or you can order your copy online. The book consists of 76 short lessons on finding strength in vulnerability. Adversity is something you will inevitably face in life. I wrote this book to share and showcase how to process that and what can come from it. Adversity is something we wish would never happen to us, but it does. I want you to understand, though, that it can inspire you to achieve incredible things, not just for yourself, but for others too. Everyone on this earth is born amazing at something. It is just a case of finding out what that is. Life is incredibly short and valuable, so make it count. You may find that you don't believe in your ability or fearful to test yourself. By the end of this book, I believe you will. To get yourself a copy now, it can be purchased at Waterstones, Amazon, or by simply clicking the link on my Instagram bio, Joshua_Patterson_JP now.
Fatima, thank you so much for taking the trip to the studio today. I'm so excited to share your story with people because most people may have never heard of you before. And I feel incredibly blessed that we were introduced to one another in Chamonix very recently. And when I heard just a small part of your story, it was one that just needed to be shared. And I think more people need to understand you as a person and your journey, because I think the impact that you could have on society and people's views is just profound.
No, thank you. I feel really great to be here. And actually, it was awesome to meet you in Chamonix. And it was like a pre-race pep talk. So I was very grateful to that. And I'm really excited to be here and share this story with you and everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of give more context, so we were out in Chamonix and a mutual friend of ours basically just said, listen, there's this incredibly inspiring woman that I would love you to meet. I've kind of been supporting her on her journey, and it's something that I think you would really connect with. And so I remember just getting that phone call saying she's downstairs, can you come and meet her? Came down to meet you, and I just see this huge smile and just like this energy that just radiates out. And it was just, as you said, it was kind of pre your 100K Ultra, which was one of the toughest courses out there. And it was incredibly hot. And it just, I think the why of your running, I think, is what makes it so incredibly powerful. Now, you're from Afghanistan. Now, Afghanistan is a place that we see so frequently on our news. But I think having been in an industry where I can see sometimes the reality is distorted, I think this episode is going to be such a good opportunity to actually hear maybe some of the truths around that area and actually really what's going on and what it was like for you.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful to Stuart to introduce to us in Chamonix. So Afghanistan is a beautiful country surrounded by mountains. And I grew up in that area. Like we were like, I would say, fearless kids, living in this beautiful rural life in Afghanistan. I mean, mornings we spent going to school. The rest of the time we were just out there until late as 9 p.m. But as much as the beauty of the mountains, it's obviously has a lot of dark side to it. It's never been left in peace for the people, especially women and girls. So we've had that challenges to face, and which is why we have left. But obviously there are still a lot of people, my family, neighbors that we used to live with, and the rest of the people are still obviously there. In Afghanistan, we would say it's like wounded by many, and it's been going through war for years. And when we when we left, it was to a point where can we actually continue to being in this situation and actually have a life? Because I think for every father or mother, I would say, the fear is that what will happen to my daughter? Can I bear that pain if something is going to happen to them? Or it doesn't matter if it's daughter or son. Can I bear that pain? Because the situation that people live in is actually hard. Yes, we live in the nature and it's beautiful. And people use nature as a way of escape because, for example, if you look in the ethnic background of Hazaras, there has been genocide continuous since the 13th centuries, since before Taliban, when Abdul Rahman was in power, he said ethnic cleanse Hazara minority. And the war has been going on Hazara specifically, but now you can see that it is destroyed for all the ethnic backgrounds, people who wants to live a simple life and just have a life that's just basically go to school, come home, live a life and in peace. But that's taken. So, for example, for Hazaras, it was to say ethnic cleanse the Hazaras. We felt we are not actually able to see they don't see us as Afghan people in Afghanistan. So we're always been treated as foreigners, like you will not see many Hazaras in the parliament working. You may not see, they were not given jobs. So Hazaras were always, that's what when we lived in the mountains, because they would come, they don't talk, there is no rational, there is no talking. They come, what's your background? Hazaras. Bang, you're gone. And so that was ongoing and is still happening. So people of Hazaras, for example, are, because we don't adhere to the values or the laws they want to put us onto, people of Hazaras want to strive for excellence, for girls to be educated and have a living that is for every human being, that's a simple life. So they don't want us to have that. And so they were like, you're a foreigner. So for any people, any mother, any father to have that always, like they would go door to door, house to house. This is at the time of Abdul Rahman. And then that continued with the Al-Qaedas and then continued with Taliban. And it's still happening to this day, where if you're Hazara, you get killed. So many people displaced their homes, left their lands. Like we left everything, only a few pieces of clothes, we were gone. They went to the neighboring countries, Iran, Pakistan, and ran away around to the rest of part of the world.
How do you find individuals like yourself and the broader community? I mean, if you're born into that environment, I mean, the pain and the suffering is still going to be the same. But do you think, because that's all you've ever known, do you think there's a different view on something like that?
My grandma would tell stories before even I was born that, for example, they had a hole and an underground living area. So because when they would come knock on your doors, if they see you, that's it. Like, they don't talk in terms of like, oh, why, for example, just because I have a different belief and I allow my girls to go to school, why then you kill me, for example. And
so there's no conversation. If they were to come and find you, it's a case if they would just shoot you on the spot.
That's it. For Hazaras, absolutely, that has been ongoing. Like just recently when the 2021, when Taliban took over, my mom's cousin, for example, the entire family was shot. And it is hard, but the thing is how you deal with certain grief, it's that I'm blessed to have God in my life. And that's the same thing for my family, I would say, is that we have this thing called tawakkul. That means you put your trust in God, you put your life in God's hand. And in many situations I felt like this could be the last moment. For example, when you say goodbye to your family, a lot of people, this could be the last goodbyes. This is like, that's why since very young age, we've lived a life where maybe there's no tomorrow. Yesterday is gone. Now we have to make the most of now. So it's important to be in the moment, be in the present. So that has been embedded in us from a very young age, to make sure that you live a life that maybe there is no tomorrow. And like I remember visiting back home in 2015, like we missed 3 bomb attacks. And many other attacks were on the Hazaras, for example, like girls in school, they just attack the schools. And they have this teaching in their school that if you kill a Hazara, you grab a bit of their blood, put in your skin, you got the key to heaven. So if you have those teaching in their schools, like you're a foreigner, like you don't belong to this country, so let's get rid of you. And I think who want to leave their land? Like, for example, where I was born and grew up is like we had beautiful piece of land, mountains, we grew everything from in the land. We go to school, for example, but we were like these fearless kids running around, living a good life. But you become to a point of desperation that you don't see maybe there's no tomorrow for my children. There's no tomorrow for anything for my life, because my dad left earlier on, and then he would think that actually I don't think this is going to be successful for the kids, because if they come today and they say, I want to take your son to join my army, or I want your daughter to marry my son, you have no say. If Taliban says that the water is yellow, it's yellow. Like you cannot say a word to it. That's what they say. That's true. And I remember, like, I think it was in the 2000s where they came to the school. So they sent all girls home. Like we ran back home. They took my uncle and my brother to go for protest against America in this province that we were living. And my grandmother was always like, I think, worrying so much because are they going to come back? So they came back late in the afternoon. But from the morning to the evening, they were taken, like late afternoon, they came back to go protest. And in those kind of situations, you kind of feel like, yes, I have like life, I have land, I'm making a living of here, but whether we will make it to tomorrow, that's the question. We would have in each farm that we were living, each farmers, so they would come collect a sum of interest each month. And I remember like we would peek through from the roof most of the time to see what they look like. These it's kind of scary people with guns. But my grandmother would always tell us off because, if they see you, that's it. Maybe they want to take you, maybe they don't want to take you, but it's scary. But we would pick through. So you had to make the good meal for them, feed them well, give them the sum of interest, wait for the next month. That will happen again and again and again. We were little kids, but we would still be like curious, like, oh, what happens,
When you look at how long, I guess, both America and England were in Afghanistan, do you feel that there was any benefit to that at all? Actually being someone that had lived there through that period of time?
When Russia came to Afghanistan to recreate Afghanistan, that's when in the late 1970s, then the group of people from Pashtun province came together and made Al Qaeda, and they fought against Russia. Russia left. And then America came. What America did was they set a group of Al-Qaedans as leaders in each province. So Hazara was never like part of this because they were like, you're Hazara, we're not going to be able to let you lead this kind of thing. So, and then after that, when America came, so that's when Mullah Muhammad Umar, that's when he started another group, that was in the late, in the 1979, 75. That is when he started this group where it's known as Taliban. And then from then, 1996, 94, that's when it's formed. And then Taliban they fought against Al-Qaeda. They escaped to Pakistan. And then from then, Taliban came 1996 to Kabul. That's when, for example, women were stoned. They went door to door. If there was any girls' school, doesn't matter if it was Pashtun, Tajik, Uzbek, or Hazara. They just didn't want girls to go to school. They introduced a different law and regime for you to continue. So Al-Qaeda escaped to Pakistan. And then Taliban started taking rules and bringing new laws. And then America came, they fought. But at the time, you look at the weapon and the things that they were doing, for example, you have to be curious of who funds these people, So I felt that, for my opinion, and also there is a lot of evidence about it. So when America started fighting against, and Taliban escaped. Where did they go? They went to Pakistan. There are parts of Pakistan, for example, like you cannot go. This like no foreigners allowed here. There are schools like Pakistan was the biggest factory of making Taliban. So they were making this group of people to then go fight. And Pakistan, why would they fund Taliban, for example? Because they wanted to keep them as guinea pigs because they know that India is their biggest enemy. So they don't want Taliban to set an ally with India. And so that's why they continued like funding them. America, of course, America funded with Taliban, and Pakistan did produce the weapon they use. I mean, the explosion they use to kill like many girls, many like schools, like you would see just shoes is left, bodies are parted into pieces. And like, I didn't experience this myself, but when we hear stories from my aunt, for example, like that, you just have this explosion and then nothing comes back. It's just left books and shoes. And unfortunately, like this kind of pain that you just have to endure and see beyond that maybe there will be light one day, but until how, when, I don't know,
Is the general consensus amongst your people that the Taliban are liberating the lands or are they imprisoning it? That there seems to be such a abuse of power. So many people will blame religion and God for what goes on, when in reality, I feel like it's the people that are distorting the words of God.
I feel sometimes sad and I console with God because I feel people use religion as an excuse, or I shall say that, to make these laws and ruling. Religion of Islam, if you purely practice it, it's about love, it's about peace, it's about a journey with you and God to serve Him and have a peaceful life. But there's a lot of misuse of religion's name. What Taliban is, for example, imposing, and these rules and hard rules that they set, especially on women, it's completely the opposite of what the religion of Islam says. We believe, for example, we have a saying that as gahwara tagur tonish biamos. This is in my language, but it's like from birth to until you die, be educated. Religion encourages that. So, and the thing is, you have to realize that when God said, I created you, I'm the judge. Why then do we have these people come in? Oh, you're a woman, you should be dressed in this way, or you're this ethnic background, or you have this belief. Why do we don't disagree with, when God is our judge? Why do we then have to have this other sets of ruling? Very extreme, like for example, like now the situation of Afghanistan where women cannot go to school. Obviously, that is the basic human rights, but that's been taken. They cannot participate in sports. They cannot visit park.
Why is this though? I mean, this is a question that I think so many people would be fascinated to hear is, why do they impose so many sanctions on women specifically?
I mean, there are different reasons why it came to, so you're a woman, you should not be doing this and that. And they say, oh, it comes from the belief that, so their interpretation of the Quran, for example, is that, God said that women should be at home taking care of the children. Yes, mothering is the beautiful gift that God has given to all mothers. But that doesn't mean that you need to cut their rights for them to be, teaching at schools if they want to drive for excellence and be somebody of themselves. God did not say that. So the ideology that they bring into that is, it's from the extreme side. They believe in that. And so if, for example, an individual has this kind of idea that women should not be doing X, Y, and Z, then you just said that within your household rather than exposing it to the whole and implying it to the whole nation, For us, for example, from the Hazara minority, is that you need to drive to be somebody. Like, for example, my dad was like, going to school education. Even at that time, he was always like, we were doing extra curriculums and, and becoming the education and then teaching that to your other siblings or your neighbor. And so, but these people who set these rules, it's like, it comes from their idea of like what a woman should do and not do. And that's completely wrong. And even to us, it's hard to take that in because you're nobody to set these rules. When God is the judge and he is the creator, then why do you impose these rules? And we still cannot bring our head around to it, because they have this idea that I want you to not do anything and then fully cover, for example. Because if you look at hijab, actually, the physical cover is the smallest percentages of hijab, because hijab means there's 4 layers when it comes to hijab. Because if you look into spirituality of it, what is my head thinking? I could be fully covered, but my eyes are talking and looking into something that I should not be looking, for example. That's one layer of hijab. And social, where do I spend my time? I could be fully covered or not covered. So that is like, what is my social life? And then in the next thing comes to your psychological, and also your physical. So the physical cover, ideally in Quran, it doesn't say you need to be fully, like headscarf, it does not mention. But it says about modest. You need to be modest, and you need to be modest. And that is between you and God. He's like, there is a misconception like, oh yeah, I have to show my beauty to my husband. But actually, God is between you and God, and then everything else. But it's about being modest, and being modest, not just with physical cover, but being modest with your social, your the way you behave.
This week's episode is sponsored by Runner. Runner is a personalized running coaching app helping runners of all abilities train for any goal. From a first 5K to a marathon, even an ultra marathon. When the time is right for you, your plan can be created within a minute and ready to go. With each plan, Runner provides all the help a runner requires, including strength and conditioning, and you can also reach out to the team at any time via the support tab inside the app. For a 2-week free trial on any personalized running plan, use the code PHOENIX. No matter your goal, Runner is there to help you achieve it.
Religion itself is a peaceful, is a guide to live your life with easy, and process things and make the challenges for you a lot easier to go through and then make it better. In terms of the fights within the Afghan people, and obviously there was a lot of help that came to make it better, but it actually, in fact, it made everything worse. Like before the fall of Afghanistan in 2021, like when Taliban and US met to sign this peace that they've changed, that was completely garbage. Because these people who would burn a woman alive, that stone a woman alive, there is nowhere in religion that said that religion it's not religion. Then to do that to an individual, a human being, where is the humanity, in that? And where is the moral? Where is the moral and character? That you burn this and you kill women brutally like that. It's hard. And so then they blame that on religion. It's sad, because religion actually is not what they're imposing. And, these laws that they set is not religion. So it's their extreme ideology. So when they said, oh yeah, and a lot of people like, yeah, Taliban has changed. No, they will not. They will never change, because there is no rationale, there is no logic with them. You cannot have this kind of talks with them,
As an Afghani woman, when you hear that word, Taliban, how does it make you feel?
That's a good question, I feel I would say fear, but then God said, don't have fear, we have this tawakkul in God, and you need to fight against them. If you count the number of family members and the number of people we've seen and they die, and they've been brutally killed, you don't want to react to that, It's like heartbreaking to have that and to be able to go through that and see that. But you just look at God and say, you be the judge for this, because nobody deserved that, like having family right now, like in point of desperation, that because they have young girls, there is like kidnapping and even just general people. Look at poverty, for example. It's at its peak in Afghanistan. People do not have a loaf of bread for the night to eat. And to able to go and have that now, Yes, there was poverty before, but it's even worse now. They now set in new rules, for example, that they're taxing people who sell vegetable on the trolleys. To have all these rules coming in through, and as a woman, it's sad, because why are we this the thing is, you have to look at life. It's like a river. It's a short journey that we're all here, and it's going. You cannot go to yesterday, you cannot go to tomorrow. It's this moment right now. And if we one another just to help each other live a life that maybe tomorrow is not coming, then it will be better. It will be a lot better for everyone. But unfortunately, that is not the case for people in Afghanistan and many other countries, of course, that are going through the same, like, for example, Palestine and Lebanon and other war going around. But then why? What does it cost all of us to love each other? Imagine the world with peace.
When you look at these influential figures and you look at the monstrosities that they are doing, that comes from a place of trauma. They've been exposed to an environment that has broken their spirit and has created that monster. You easily could have become one of those individuals, and instead you've chosen not to. Why and how?
See, the thing is, I'm beyond blessed because I have God in my life, and I'm blessed. It is God that I'm here and I'm having this conversation with you today. And doesn't matter the adversity, doesn't matter what you're going through. Like, I'm beyond grateful to have God in my life, and He's the one that's enabling me to run 100K, enabling me to overcome anything. And for me, it's God. And it is easy to play the victim game, and I would probably be like vegetable if I play the victim game and be like, oh my God. Yes, I am very sad. I'm heartbreaking, but I have a way where I talk to God. Like, I'm like journaling this journey with God because He's the one that's overlooking the whole situation. He's aware of everything. And so for me to have Him to enable me to do anything in life, so I said to Him, like, you have to be ready for any kind of situation, whether that's losing parents, losing family members, anybody. And you have to be always ready for that. And I am grateful to God because He's enabling me to overcome, the situation of my country and many other situations that we are going through, the adversity where, like, for example, when we left Afghanistan, it was early in springtime. It was snow, so we walked about 45 minutes to get to the car, then drove down. And coming along near Ghazni, like, it's we can hear like bullet coming, but we thought it's the wind. And then it's gotten more. So we're like, so we're trying to get our head down. And then my grandmother was like, we need to stop the car. And it's like you had to be at any kind of moments to enable to deal with your emotions, and so we got searched. 2 members of Taliban came search, to see this like few kids, like an old lady, and then my mother, for example. And so they searched us. So you had to overcome those fears. It's easy to go in that path where you react like, and you blame and you're fearful. But it's easier to choose that. But also, ultimately, you can actually be the other side where, like, okay, this is the situation. Because with life, you have to be raw. You have a problem. You need to go inside that. You need to dive into it, dissect it bit by bit. What am I going to do next? And with that, God has always had my back, like, it's like, for example, running an ultra is nothing to what we've experienced when I was young, for example, and then you somehow you come out of it, you deal with it, so you don't then what's next.
It feels like all of these moments, it's a saying that, everything happens for a reason. And to some individuals that doesn't add up, because sometimes we don't really ever have the answers of why something has happened. But if you look at the journey that you've been exposed to, and I guess the place that you find yourself in now, you live in England now, you're a nurse for the NHS. I think ultimately everything you've been exposed to is what's created that empathy within you and your care for
Mm,
people. You've commit. I mean, even in the short period of time that I've known you, you can see that you commit every second of your life to bettering another person's life.
mm,
And I just think that's the most admirable quality that you have. You know, we're going through a time right now where immigration is such a topic of conversation, but we're only ever really highlighting the negatives that come from that. When you look at an individual like yourself, a refugee, and you look at the phenomenal things that you're doing and the people that you're inspiring, these are the stories. You're the sort of individual that we need to start championing because we're starting to lose touch, I think, with the human aspect. We're not seeing the person. We're
mm,
creating a narrative in our head of what that individual's like because the media constantly just portrays the
mm,
individual or individuals as the worst people on earth. You're a female that's come from an unlivable environment where every day could potentially be your last, and all
mm,
you ultimately want in this life is to wake up and feel free and to
mm,
feel safe.
mm.
Right now, England's probably not the place for that either, by the looks of things, but at the same time, it's better than what it was.
Mhm.
When you do the comparison of your former environment in Afghanistan and you look at your environment now in England, what is that feeling like when you wake up?
In terms of not having Taliban with the gun around, of course, I have that freedom. I can do whatever. And it's my responsibility to make sure that I look after me. And then what can I do to serve community? What can I do to serve people? It is like, for example, I love visualization. It's the way I imagine I cross finish lines and I celebrate that even before going being in the start line. So imagine myself, for example, I imagine myself as this beautiful tree, and I'm the root of that tree. So I need to look around at different things, whether that's nutrition, sleep, whether that's meditation, running, exercise, whatever that is. What can I do to make this root solid, to make this root without being cracking, to build this strong. Then it comes the branches, for example. One branch is the family, the other one is my friends, the other one is work, the other one is trail running, whatever it is. So the branches are the tree of this tree are representative of everything I do in life. And therefore, at any point of my life, if something goes wrong, I must make sure the root stays solid. And that it takes a lot of work. You have to do a lot of things. So the key is not, even if one branch cracks, you still want to be solid. And that comes with, when it comes to risk, yes. And when it comes to failure, it's good. It's a lesson. If you live a life where everything is given to you right away without you going through this hardship, without going through tough moments, it's easy. But as human beings, we need to go through challenges to be able to stand solid, to be standing tough without even cracking. Even that's losing a loved one, you will be able to handle that well. And with that, so you need to work on that tree so tough, so hard, to be able to make sure you serve. So for me, it's my responsibility that I need to do something. For example, after 2021, when Taliban took over Afghanistan, I feel sometimes it's like I escaped, but there's so many other people out there. There's so many talented people. They're better than me. Like, they deserve to have a life in safety. And so for me, if they cannot do that, they have so much to offer to the world. But it's heartbreaking that we cannot showcase all this stuff. They cannot, they're in sports, in art, in music. They're artists, but no one can see it, and they cannot practice that. They cannot do it. So for me, it's my responsibility to thrive on being the voice for, whether it's women or kids, whether it's people of Afghanistan. I have to do something to make sure that they are heard.
Obviously, where we met, you know, your investment into ultra running, trail running, was that something that you were familiar with when back home, or was that something that you had invested in when coming over to England?
So we were, like I said, we were this crazy kids, I sometimes think that when we, in the winter specifically, because living in a high altitude, we had a lot of snow. We would sit in a plastic bag from top of the mountain to the bottom. Like sometimes we double, sometimes we just single. And it was cool, you know? I never thought risk, like this could be like death, but never crossed that. It was all about the fun. And going to school, it was starting early. So we had to be on time. Otherwise, there is something waiting for you. So my friend and I would make sure as walk as fast as we can to be there on time. And most of the time we were like actually running to make it to school on time, because otherwise we get beaten in the hands. And I remember once, it was like autumn season, when you run, that your hands are like having these pains and needle already from the cold.
Yeah, in the fingertips.
Oh my God, it's like red. And so we tried to escape so one teacher would wait at the entrance, one at the exit. So you can there was no way that you can escape that. And so they hit us on the hand with this fresh branch of trees. And that was painful so badly that even when we were going home, it was still itching and it was burning. And so I said to my friend, like, we cannot be late again. Like, we must. So you either run with me or, So we would make sure we ran to every time we run. If we are like a bit late, we would take a right, run about 20 minutes, and then hitchhike. So if there was a lorry passing, we give hand. If they stop, good. If not, we then try to pull each other to get up on that lorry to get to school. But it never crossed my head like that, trail running one day. And it was never a thing. Like we were just happy bunch playing, like, sport in maybe more in the main cities. But for us at the time, we never thought we will be running.
Even though you're so far away, I guess, do you think subconsciously by running in the mountains, it's a place that you identify as home? Do you think there's a connection between the two?
100%. 100%. Like, like every single time I'm in the mountain, I feel I'm a bird like with wings. And I feel like I'm in those beautiful mountains back home, doing an ultra is about mind game. It's not physically, yes, you can pull it through, but it's all in the mind. And there are phases, I don't know if you experience that within your running, but for me, there are phases I don't remember about the journey. And I'm so lost with the views around me. And then also every time I'm running, I'm thinking about the people back home, because I'm like, they could be doing this. Afghanistan has so many beautiful places that I imagine be like, oh my God, this could be a beautiful, like Bamyan, for example. The mountains, the trails, this could be a nice event that we can organize. And the lakes, like crystal looking blue lakes. It's so beautiful. And like, I feel the world deserves to see what is Afghanistan like, the mountains. But unfortunately, like we can't, And so for me, every time I'm in the mountains, I feel I am back home, because I'm that little girl, like waiting to sit on the next plastic bag to come down. So I feel like that. Like Bamyan, for example, when Taliban came over in that province, and so it's about Buddhism, philosophy, art. That is where it is, and they destroyed it. Within 3 days, they destroyed the Buddha. And there are still people who are still studying that sculpture, but unfortunately, they destroyed the history, and they're like, oh, it doesn't resonate with religion. What is piece of history? So there are these people who I wish I could meet and have this conversation, but I dare that they would even look at me, because who are you? I'm still like holding on that faith that there will be one day where there will be trail running events in Afghanistan. We will be able to show these stunning landscapes to the world, and for people to come and visit that, because it's just stunning that we have to hold on to the hope. Otherwise, we will fall.
Running for me is about achieving a peaceful mind. What does running mean to you?
I just want to make myself in all aspect of it stronger, and it's my life. Like it doesn't matter if it's running or any sports. I love sports. In running, it's like a next level thing, and for me, it means I need to build myself a solid. And then with that, I feel like that is my only way to be able to help people back home, but also individuals around the world. If I change one life, with running, for me, that's everything. And so for me, the reason I do running is because I want to work on myself, but also I don't want to be a hypocrite at work, be like, you must exercise, you must eat right, eat healthy. And I'm just not doing it myself. So I must make sure that I do it, then able to kind of prescribe that for everybody else around that, So for me, running is everything.
I mean, for you to have signed up to Chamonix though is phenomenal, because I mean that 100K trail that you took on was absolutely mammoth. And I mean, the weather conditions for that were actually incredibly humid and hot. That I think would probably be a disadvantage for most, but actually when you look at the conditions of Afghanistan, that probably worked in your favor.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think from a psychological point, I'd be fascinated to know that when you find yourself in those incredibly testing moments, what is it that you think or reflect on to get through it?
Signing up for the 100K was actually I had an injury prior to that, and then I was I was not attending the track. So my coach was like, oh, you need to come, just do the warm up and do this and that. And I only had 3 months of running. The rest I was swimming, cycling, and just different ways of making myself ready for that 100K. And he goes, oh, you must sign up for something to look forward to. So the next thing I show up in the track, I said, coach, I'm going to be doing the 100K. And he just shake his head like, what? I said, yeah, I got 3 months. I must be ready. And so I think it's all about the mind. You just have to believe before you even be in the start line. It's painful, yes. It's not hard. It's not easy, yes. That's part of it. You have to, when you stand in that start line, you need to be aware that, yes, not every single part of this I'm going to be smiling, but that's okay. That's life. And so every single time in an ultra, when I am going through that pain cave, as Courtney DeWalter says, you need to go through the pain cave. There are many things I think about. I think the first thing is my dad. Like, he always comes to mind because he's the one that I'm here, First I say, God, yes, you give me strength to continue. Then I just think about my dad. And then it is like you go deeper and deeper and deeper. Then it's like the people of Afghanistan, like this many people who can actually be in the same start line with me to do the same thing. They're not able to. And I use that as a source of energy to thrive on and to go down and finish it, And that is always like, you just have to go. It's, for me, I feel like, and doing any ultra is like an open book you want to read. And every chapter, you're writing it. So you're reading, but also in your head, you're discovering so much things about yourself. Like every single time I feel like I'm discovering something new about myself, and I'm learning about it. I'm like, oh, what can I do next to make that better? And so it's a discovery, but also I think a lot about my dad, because he's the one who made us to have this life,
What ambitions do you have, I guess, in the running space? Like, is there a particular challenge that you wish to set yourself, or is there like a chosen distance that you love, or is there a particular train that you want to expose yourself to?
The current ambition is that I want to finish running undercover project for the girls and women of Afghanistan. I want to finish that. But I'm thinking already beyond what's yet to come for me, and I'm very excited. I want to climb mountains, I want to climb Everest, Kilimanjaro, Mont Blanc. I want to be in the mountain. For me, I want to take this like full time. So whether that's to give up nursing, I might, but I'm just in that calculation to look forward to actually be in the mountains more, because that is when I feel alive, I feel like with that, I'm able to then bring so much more people and women. It doesn't necessarily have to be Afghan women. Like, I think there's a lot of stigma with a lot of women that, when I train, for example, my clients as a PT, the thing is that they completely avoid the free weight area because they're like, oh, it's for men. And for my message, that is to inspire that actually, no, at the end of the day, everybody has a story they didn't want to say out loud. Everybody is going through something. So why can't you just go in the free weight area? I want to break that boundary for a lot of people, especially women, because actually for example, I'm lean, and then when I lift, people are like, what? And so I want to like enable women to, or people, I shall say, to continue that, to start somewhere.
This is a very loaded question, but if you could be sat right now opposite the one individual that has the power to impose change, what would you say to them?
I think peace around the world. What I see, for example, what's happening in Lebanon and Palestine, Ukraine, many other countries, including Afghanistan. Look at poverty and this war. I would want peace because it does not cost us anything. I don't know whether it's political parties that are political dramas that are, but civilian, why do they have to suffer? Because I've been a civilian myself, and displaced from my land, displaced from my home, that I was cool. So I would want peace around the world and people to live a life, just basic life. Don't want them to be millionaires, but just give them their freedom to do whatever they want to do. Just give them that. So I would be like, but I'm still praying for peace because it will happen. But it's sad the fact that we'll see so many lives, so many lives lost
To get to that point.
to get to that point. Why do we have to,
Do you think in your lifetime you're ever going to be able to go back to Afghanistan?
I want to go to my land. Like I want to visit my grandmother's graveyard because when Dad was away, she was my dad, She was not just, she inspired me. I think most of my foundation is from my grandmother and my mother and my family and the people of Afghanistan. But mainly her because she was a woman of business, but also superwoman. Like I don't think superwoman is the right term to describe her. She was so great to us, to the community, to the neighbors. But she is the one that I have so many morals from her, like learn so many. So I want to visit her graveyard. Yes, I want to go back to visit my grandpa's graveyard, to visit family and friends that, and my, this. But ideally, if I have the chance to go, yes, I would love to go because even just to grab a bit of sun from back home, that means so much because
God, but literally,
that is
like,
my
raises
foundation.
The hair on your arms.
That
Fatima.
is my foundation because I don't regret anything in the past because that is the person I've become today. But the question may be like, do I need it to go through that to be who I am? Maybe, I don't know. But I couldn't change anything, that built me. That is my bridge. And so if I can visit my grandma's graveyard, that will be like a lifetime.
I honestly just want to say, thank you for being so vulnerable today and so honest and having the courage to speak about a topic that so many are fearful of doing themselves. I wish you every success with whatever you do, wherever you are in the world. And I just want to thank you for the constant impact that you are having in society and will continue to have in society. And I truly believe whatever you set your mind to, you will flourish in it because you have the most phenomenal mindset. I think when there are women like yourself that walk this earth, the world will always be a better place. And I don't want you to forget that.
Thank you. No, I'm always blessed with life, I'm great to be alive. I'm great to have that impact on people. And I want to just say that don't forget the people and the women and girls of Afghanistan because, oh my God, they are phenomenal. They have so much to give. They have so much to offer. And I hope that there will be an ultra one day in Afghanistan. I pray for that.
Honestly, Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been one of the most inspiring and eye-opening conversations I've had since I've launched this podcast. And I'm so grateful that we were able to meet one another that day in Chamonix. I feel like sometimes in life, your paths are meant to be crossed and ours was certainly that. And it's amazing. And I really look forward to seeing your journey continue and what unfolds.
No, thanks to you. And thanks to Stuart for introducing us because you're amazing.
Thank you,
You really
Fatima.
are amazing.
Thank you, Stu. Big love.
Yeah, thank
Until
you.
next time. Wow, my mind is
Oh.
effing blown right now. So this is probably the first time I've done a bit of a recap after an episode, but there was just something about Fatima and the conversation that we just had there where I just felt like I needed to do it. That was Possibly one of the most insightful and inspiring episodes that we've had since this podcast launched. Having been exposed to so much cruelty in her life, sat opposite me right there was a woman so composed, so compassionate, and so empathetic of other people. She's dedicated her life to helping so many people around her. There are so many individuals like her in this world right now where their stories aren't being heard and they can be lost through the cracks. And actually, if we're going to make this world a better place, we need more people like Fatima in it. Thank you so much again, guys, for consistently investing and supporting this podcast. On a personal level, it means the world, and I absolutely love doing it. And if you'd like to watch all of these episodes, you can go over to the I Did a Runner YouTube channel now. Now, if you continue to enjoy these episodes each week, it honestly makes such a difference to the podcast if you could just like, comment, and subscribe. Continue to pass on the message, and I will continue to bring on some of the most insightful and inspiring guests there are. From myself again, big love, guys, and thank you so much for tuning in.